All right, so welcome back to this new development stream of Neurovoider. No, not Neurovoider. Neurovoider is our previous game. It's not Neurovoider. It's ScourgeBringer. Yeah. So just a moment. I just launched something I didn't want to do. So okay. Yeah. So this week, well, these past few days, I've been working on mostly on our tools because Florian is still working on another game. So I've made some progress on our tooling until he's not available. Yeah, so I've been working on our editor, which is used to design rooms. Like this, you can. It's basically a tile-based editor that we've made, so you can just design any kind of room and put tiles. We can also put enemies. So if I want enemies to be there, I can just place them like this. And this editor is also used to generate everything that is levels. So this is just what we call the topology of levels, and we then use like each tile, we try to fit rooms in it and so on. And we also have a bullet editors to, well, yeah, design bullets to like we have something like a programmable bullet system where you can add actions to bullet, make them change directions and so on. So right here, if I like try to add action to the bullet, so I'm going to add an action. Let's say that it activates at half a second. It adds to the current properties, and I want yeah, the like maybe not the velocity, but the angular velocity. Yeah, we'll try to toy around with this. Maybe 4. Yeah. And here you go. So this is the kind of stuff that we can do. So like trying to program bullets and see how it's going on. So right here, it's at half a second, it adds some angular velocity to the bullets, and also it adds also to the scale. I'm going to remove the scaling because it's just weird. Remove scaling 0. Okay, and clear existing bullets. Here you go. So now it's just like a pattern with bullets going round and round, and they have a time to live of 10 seconds. So after 10 seconds, they like self-destruct. But that's not something. That's not what I wanted to show you today. I'm just going to clean this. We have an emitter pattern editor. That's basically the brother of the bullet editor. The bullet editor allows us to design the individual behavior of a single bullet, while the emitter editor is something a bit more complex, because that's basically our weapon editor. Because we define origins of bullet, we can like add different origins. So right here I have something like 3 kind of origin, and I can set my fire sequence to like fire bullets from different origins, and it acts accordingly with the presence of the player, or the orientation, the direction of all the thing. So I can move around my points to see how the weapon is going to behave in each direction and so on. And basically it's going to be able for designing any kind of bullet patterns, weapon, and so on. And of course we also have our boss editor with a boss pattern editor where we define patterns and animations, and it's a timeline-based animation system where we define keyframes, and for each keyframe we define a position, a rotation, and if I move around this position on this specific keyframe, it's going to like blend each frame from this position and so on, and I can like play the animation and it's going to move along the keyframes and also and so on. And you can define translations, you can define rotation, you can also define change of sprites, because within an animation you most probably want to have some sprite animation. We also have a weapon trigger here, because we want here in the animation system to be able to like define when the boss is going to use a weapon, how it's going to be used, and in which direction. And so we have here exactly in the same fashion of making animation, we just add keyframes and say this weapon is going to fire from this keyframe to this keyframe, or only on this keyframe, and so on. And we also have the same thing with our particle engine. So right now, if you take a look at the boss, there is something like little flames that are on the top of his head, and that's basically a particle origin. And we can define like particle triggers along the timeline of an animation to say when particles goes off and so on. So all of this is basically not new compared to what I've been up to since the last stream. I'm going to show you what I've been basically up to. I've been making the editor to be fully playable. I mean, right here, it's a live preview of our engine. It hasn't changed since last time, but now I have like plugged all the systems that we've developed for the game, and you can actually play within the editor. So I can like drag a player and put it anywhere, and I'm just going to grab my gamepad and I can play around. So that's exactly the engine of the game, which is running. It's virtually exactly the game running within the editor, and I can play around exactly like I would in the game itself. I can just shoot, everything works, every kind of collisions, and I can add stuff in real time. Like if I want to add a platform here, I'm going to just add the colliders as well. So right now the colliders are manually set, but it's going to be fully automatic in at some point. And I can just like playing like exactly like this. And if I want to remove there, the collider are still there, but if I remove them, it just play live. So I can really edit anything within the editor, and we can test the rooms directly into this. I can change rooms. Of course, if the character is off the room, it just fall off, but I can bring it back and keep playing. So testing rooms. This is going to be very, very, very handy, because we won't have to like launch the game, export the data, and so on to test every room. It was really, really important for us to be able to test things from within the editors and from the very moment we were designing stuff. So that's something very cool. And of course, I can also place enemies. So in this room there is already enemies. If I just click on my test button, I have the enemies that are popping around, and I can instantly play. And of course I can add enemies. So I'm going to add a few of them here. I'm going to back here and test, and there are. So it's a very, very powerful and simple to use editor. And we can really test everything. We can also test rooms with multiples. In this room, we have something a bit special. It's that there are multiple waves of enemy. We can define up to 9 waves, and also a special wave where we can add enemies that are going to pop after a certain amount of time. For instance, if I just place, it just crashed. Okay, that's not an issue. The editor just crashed, but I'm going to launch it again, and I'm going to show you what's going on. Okay. In this room, so we can define multiple waves of enemy. I mean, this is wave 0. It's the wave of enemies that are going to appear if I start the room. So if I just like test, so this is wave 0. These are the default enemies that are present in the room instantly when you enter that room. And I'm going to clean that. And wave 1, it's the wave that is going to like spawn right after I have completely cleaned the previous wave, and I can define several waves like this. And so if I just test that and clean this wave, there is a second wave that is going to spawn. So it's very, very cool to have live testing from within the editor, because yeah, it's very cool to be able to try things instantly, and we are not losing time to restart the game, to go through stuff, find the rooms, or having something like that. So having a live preview allows us to iterate very, very, very quickly, and that's going to be a very powerful tool when we are going to do things with this. Another thing now is that from within our editor, I'm going to try to, this room, we can now place bosses. So this is going to be how we define also our bosses. It's the same panel as the enemy. So this is the list of enemies, and on the very last page of the enemies there is the bosses. And we can place bosses. It uses exactly the same system or spawning system as the enemy. I mean, this is wave 0. Wave 0 are all the enemies that are put into the room by default. And so now I can also put bosses. I can like say, okay, this is wave 0, and I have a bosses in. And I can also put multiple bosses into the same room. I don't know if we are going to use this. I don't think that we are going to put multiple boss into one room, or if we do, it's going to be a specific boss on its own that has several parts and so on. But we are not going to like put multiple boss in a room. It sounds very overkill. But what's interesting about this system is that I can define a boss in wave 0, and in wave 2 I can put another boss or the same boss. And what's very interesting about this is that we are going to be able to design bosses in multiple phases. Like, something like, it's the last boss, and it's going to have like 3 or 4 phases, different phases. That's very cool, because we are going to be able to play with this very easily, because we only have to focus on designing a specific phase of a boss. Technically, it's going to be different bosses that are going to be right after each wave. But the cool thing is that now we have like a powerful tool that are going to enable us to try out things, to be able to place bosses and play around with this. And of course, we will be able to test the room with the bosses directly in. So right now, the bosses are not completely fully implemented. so they are not moving around. We have the animation system, the attack system pattern, and so on. But I still have to like implement the behavior itself and the artificial intelligence that is going to glue everything together. So we are going to be able to play bosses. But we are very close. We are very close to have like playable bosses within the game. And of course, I've also added a playable character in the emitter or weapon the designer, because this is from this part of the editor that we are going to define each bullet patterns or attack patterns based on bullets. And this is basically this screen, yeah. And what's cool is that some bullet patterns are going to be focused on the player or depends on the position of the player. And it's also important to us to know if the patterns are directly playable, if they are not too hard or too easy and so on. And having a playable character directly from within this screen will really allow us to test those patterns and make sure that things are doing well. And the cool thing is that we can edit directly the values of our different patterns. So, and it's a live, you can really live edit stuff. So we really will be able to like fine tune the attacks, patterns, and weapons very quickly and iterate very easily on this. We hope that it's going to be a very powerful tool for us to design things in a very relevant way and hopefully do things cool and not too hard and too strange and so on. And the last but not least thing that I wanted to show you is that we can also now have a player from within our boss editor system. And we can also now have a live preview of what the boss would behave from within a specific room. So we can define specific rooms with a boss directly in and edit its attack patterns directly from the editor and try it out directly into the editor, like starting to play, starting to try directly into the editor the different patterns. Just play around with the boss living and being able to adjust live its pattern. For instance, I'm going to be able to move it around, to edit all its animation. It's going to be, I hope, a very, very useful and interesting tool. And the other new thing is that I am now drawing the curves of the movement of bosses. I'm going just to try to... Okay, so this is the default animation. It's the idle animation. And if on this keyframe, I just move it around and play the animation, so it's going to interpolate the positions on these particular keyframes. And I now display the curve of the movement. So it's a simple translation. So it just moves along this curve. It's no big deal here. And I can, of course, hide the curves or show them. And what's very cool now is that I have implemented movement based on Bezier curve. Bezier curve are a very simple equation that allows to like put control points over curves to make it not straight. I'm going to show you. So I have two control points on each end, and I can just drag them around, and it's going to like act like magnets that are going to change the trajectory of the curve, trying to having like a gravity on this point. And I can do this on both sides of the curve. So I can define a movement from here. And of course, my boss movement is going to be interpolated and smoothed out over the specific curve. And so this one is still very straight, so it's going to do something like this. But if I want to also smooth this one, it's very possible. So I'm going to try to take this here and take this here. So hopefully it's going to be way smoother and do a movement like this. And the other cool thing is that all of this is also integrated with our easing system. So within 2 frames, we are able to ease the speed of the movement over the curve. And for instance, if I just like put an exponential out movement here, it's going to accelerate very fast at the beginning of the movement and decelerate at the end of the movement. So if I just play, it's going to look like this. And so right now, I believe this is like the most powerful things that we could be doing about moving stuff from our animation system. So it's quite complete now. It doesn't need much features, more features. The only kind of stuff that the editor still needs is everything that is sound, because we need to be able to out sound triggers also on bosses, and also the one last piece that this editor need is everything that is hitboxes. And we need to be able to define what are the hitboxes of the enemy, on which frame the boss is going to be like invulnerable, on which frame is going to be vulnerable, and also which of his attack has hitboxes that are going to like hit the player, because attacks are not all going to be based on bullets. For instance, this boss, he has hands, and maybe he won't be able to like punch the character. So it's important to define which parts of the enemy are going to be dangerous and on which frame, and what are going to be the hitboxes, and of course be able to live edit anything from within this editor and be able to play around with it and try stuff. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'm going to just check on my to-do list to see if I'm not missing anything about the movement just went around because the editor like caught a mouse event from outside the editor. So that's a problem that I'm trying to. But you get the idea. Okay, my to-do list. What's remaining from within the boss editor? Yeah, sound and collision box. And a third thing, it's about adding some artificial intelligence properties from within the editor. For instance, I want a specific attack from the boss to try to align with the player. If the player is on this platform here and the boss is here, the boss should something like trying to get on the same horizontal line of the player and start attacking. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm going to try to define from within the editor. For instance, say that, okay, this attack, the boss should align vertically, this attack, the boss should align horizontally, or this attack, the boss should try to reach the enemy, the character first. Yeah, these are some properties that are going to be bound to each attack pattern. And then I need to still implement the glue of all of this, and how you you go from one animation to another, how the boss is going to move around, to behave, how he's going to detect the player, and so on. So right now it's still animation based. We can already design bosses like a boss in a Contra game or a Mega Man game would be working. If you already played a Mega Man game or a game like this, Bosses have attack patterns and animations that are very strict. They are always the same. They are like very predictable, and they go always from one point to another. And they are very static things. We can already design this kind of stuff here, but we want to do something a bit smarter with bosses being able to move around, chase the player, and like attacking at the good spots of where the player is to force the player to move around in the room. We want the player to like use the full space of what's available to fight the boss. And of course, we want to do things, smart things about all the patterns. Like a boss fight should start pretty smoothly, like with patterns that are not the hardest one. And the more you advance into the boss fight and into the health bar of the boss, the more the boss is like going to get angry and use patterns more and more complex or more and more difficult. And yeah, so that's basically the idea. What I've been up to lately within the boss editor. So over the past few days, I've been like working exclusively on making this live preview and this playable things within the engine, and also enhancing the boss animation with adding control points to allow to move around curve and to be able to design complex animation. Yeah, we're pretty satisfied how things are moving forward now. So the next step for everything that is boss is designing collision boxes and allowing to be able to define properties on the attack patterns, and then implement it into the engine itself, so we can play with bosses and having them to be working. But before we are going to start reworking on boss, we need to finish up everything that is the core gameplay of the game. So right now we have the slashing key, which is mostly there, but there is a big part that is still missing from the game. It's all about that is shooting around with the drone companion. And we still have lots of stuff to do about the weapon system and also the different kind of enemy that is going to be. So our next big major milestone is going to be to implement the range weapon system to its full extent with multiple weapons, and also having everything that is ammunition and stuff that is related to using this drone, because we don't want things to be too overpowered or unlimited, and we want both the close range and the long range combat system to come together and to have synergy between one another. None should be more important than the other one. That's quite a challenge, because maybe we are going to end up with the fact that maybe one or the other is going to be something like too powerful or useless. But we think that we have interesting ideas to put together here, but to be really able to fully grasp how all this system is going to work, we also need to add more enemies with more complex attack patterns, enemies more elaborated, that are going to like force you to use all the stuff that you have at your disposition. And we still need to have the whole gameplay to come together before we start making bosses, because the bosses should be like the pinnacle of the gameplay, and for this pinnacle to really be a pinnacle, we need first to like make the gameplay very solid. So next step, making more enemies, making those range weapon and all the logic that is with the synergy between the range weapon and close range combat. And And when we'll get there, we'll add bosses. And once bosses are there, well, we would be maybe able to have a playable demo or things like that. But we'll mostly have like a full level playable from bottom to ground. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Thank you for dropping by. Yeah, catch you on next week on the same day, Wednesday, on the same hour, and with more stuff. So yeah, see you next week, and catch you on the newsletter and also on the Discord channel or on Twitter or anywhere. And feel free if you have any questions or comments, and of course, yeah. So have a great day and see you around. Bye.